So I'm going to start recording it now. Oh, got another person. Hopefully the recording works this week. Last week I was so frustrated that it didn't work, so I couldn't post it. I know that everybody isn't able to, all come at the same time. And if you can't come to the live Zoom, it really is okay. You just need to kind of check in and let me know, that you weren't able to make it. And so what my plan was last week that I didn't get to do, and I will do this week as long as the recording works, and I think it will. I think I got the kinks worked out, is I will post a Google form for you to fill out when I post the recording. And so if you're not able to make it to the live session, you watch the recording, and then just fill out the Google form. And that way that's your check-in with me for the week. You can also send me an email, that's fine too. But just, I tried to make it really easy. So let me just kind of double check real quick. People that I don't think are here: Caleb, Adriana, Jaden, McKenna, Natalie, Ariana, Abel, Rose, Caitlin, Dorian, David Ezor, Jimena, Udani, Kanishiana, Jordan, Chuck, Valerie, Eric, Natalia, Jeanette, and Ian. Oh, there's Caitlin now. Okay. So again, if you are watching the recorded version and I just said your name, make sure you are filling out that Google form or sending me an email so that I know that that you got it. Let's see, I just let in
Miss
Valerie.
Grassl.
So you're good.
I'm here.
I see you, Ian. Thank you.
You said Ian, so I didn't know.
Oh, right. It's not you. It's Ian Sexton. Sorry, Ian. Thanks for checking in. And I see Natalia is coming in. Natalia. All right. Let's see. I just need to see Natalia that just came in. I haven't seen your face yet. I'm trying to find you right now. And then David, I haven't seen your face yet either. So Natalia and David, if you guys could turn off your volume and just say something to me, that'll make you pop up to me so that I can see you.
Hi.
I'm here.
Okay, I got you,
here.
Natalia, and I got you, David. Okay, thank you. All right. So, like I said, you can turn your video off now if you would like to. I'll have you guys turn them back on again at the end just to kind of check in to make sure that you're still with me. Okay. So let's see, a few things that I just want to kind of reiterate from last week. I've got everything kind of written up on the board that I'm about to talk about. So I apologize if you heard this last week, but just kind of touching base on a few things again. I mark attendance each week, and that is if you came to a Zoom, if you turned in work, or you somehow reached out to me, then I had some sort of contact with you during the week, and that's how I'm marking your attendance. I want to remind you guys that your grades can only go up. Everything that you turn in will make your grade go up. And so if you turn in something that I don't think is either complete or it has some things wrong on it, I will return it to you, tell you what you need to fix, and you can fix it so that it does make your grade go up. Some of you guys don't need your grades to go up anymore, so I hope that you are staying engaged, because a lot of this stuff is going to be important for you guys in the future, and that's really more important than grades, right? Is growing your brain and continuing to stay connected. And so I'm happy that you guys are here, and I really appreciate you guys sticking with me and doing your work, and yeah. So anyway, and again, it's always really good to see you guys at these things on Wednesdays. I love getting to see your faces. So want to remind you guys that before the Zoom meetings on Wednesdays, the notes for the week are due, and I've seen most of those have come through already. So good job for those of you that have those turned in. Those notes are, a real easy 5 points, right? It's just copying down what they're going over for the week. I am going to talk a little bit at the end of just kind of my general spiel here about how to use the inverse trig button on a calculator, because it can be confusing depending on what kind of calculator you're using. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different options. And then I want to remind you guys also that there is a practice assignment that's due at the end of the day today. So, you know, again, once I'm kind of done with my spiel, talking a little bit about today's lesson, if you do have any questions from that practice assignment, I will address them then. One thing I do want to talk about in particular is the, excuse me, the notes and the practice assignment were kind of overlapping with each other. And so it, you know, I posted the notes and I posted the practice assignment as 2 separate assignments, but like the second page of the notes and the first page of the practice assignment were the exact same page. That doesn't mean you have to do it twice, right? Just do it once, and just make sure you include the right part on the correct assignment. So I'm sorry about that, but definitely don't do something twice, just do it once. And you can just make sure you submit it in the correct assignment there. All right, so just kind of a real quick recap of the lesson this week. I'm gonna share, oops, it's not gonna be there just yet, hang on a second. It was on inverse trig, which means you're solving for angles. Okay, so instead of using the trig ratios to solve for sides, you're now using the trig ratios to solve for angles. And so one thing to keep in mind, you might make a note to yourself that inverse trig notation, right, like this inverse tangent kind of thing, that will always tell you the angle measure. So inverse trig functions always tell you the angle measure. And if you can remember that, that really helps. The Sohcahtoa still totally applies here, where you have to decide, well, let's see, they gave me the side that's opposite and the side that's adjacent to the angle, so I know I need to use tangent because tangent is toa, opposite over adjacent. So that still applies just like last week, so that's good. You get to review that a little bit. And now the difference is, you know, how to use the inverse trig, or in this case here, the inverse tangent button on a calculator. So I'm going to turn on the calculator on my phone here. And, you know, this is an iPhone, so you guys may have different kinds of phones available to you. But at any rate, I know there's a glare there, so I'm going to see if I can help eliminate that glare. I don't know about this. Maybe over here. All right. So at any rate, if I needed to do, for example, on this particular problem here, of course, I've just covered it up. It is the inverse tangent of 125 over 435. If I had to do that on my calculator, on my phone, I first would do the 125 over the 435. So 125 divided by 435, and I hit equals, and I get what that is first. Okay, so I figure out what that ratio is first, and then I want to do the inverse tangent, and it looks like I've already got the second highlighted there, but normally you would have to hit second first, and then you can see the inverse tangent pop up there. And so then I'm going to hit that inverse tangent button, and it'll do the inverse tangent of that ratio and give me that 16 degrees there. Okay, so you can, you know, kind of keep that in mind. If you have to use a calculator on your phone, it is a totally different order of the buttons that you're pressing. Again, you would want to do the ratio first. And then after you do the ratio, then you can hit the inverse trig button. If you had access to a computer, or actually if you could do Desmos, you can get Desmos on your phones too. There's a Desmos app. And so I'm gonna just kind of show you guys, if I open up Desmos here, right? So I just did desmos.com and selected calculator. I can actually type in inverse tangent. So I haven't practiced this. I have this functions button over here, and I'm going to go inverse tangent of 125 divided by 435. And then I can just hit return. And that didn't work because it didn't give me 16 degrees. So, you know how they said to make sure that it's in degree mode? So I have to figure out how to make sure this is in degree mode, and that's not something I've done before. So I'm going to play with that. Does anybody know how to do that? On Desmos here. Oh boy. I probably should have practiced this before I did it with you guys. No, those are all just different functions to press. All right, so I'm gonna somehow have to figure this out, and I will have to get back to you guys. Let's see, I wonder if yeah. My apologies for not having this ready to go ahead of time. Maybe it's this settings button over here. Ah, there it says radians. I'm going to change that to degrees, and look what that did. It changed it to 16 degrees. So I don't know how hard or easy that is to do on a phone if you have the Desmos app on your phone. But again, I went up to this little kind of tool and had to change that to degrees. And then it gave me that value there. All right. So that's kind of everything that I wanted to check in with you guys about. So I am going to put this in your guys' hands now. If you guys have questions on anything, if there was anything that you got stuck on, you can ask those questions in just a second. I want to take just a quick minute to check in and say goodbye to everybody if you don't have any questions on the homework. I don't want you to feel like you have to stick around if you don't have questions, but if you do have questions, I called it the homework, but it's the practice assignment that's due at the end of the day today. So if you have questions on that or on anything from the notes, hang around. Otherwise, you can turn your video back on so I can see you. And if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and just kind of, you know, one at a time saying goodbye, then you'll pop up for me so that I can see your face as you leave. And if you want to stick around.
Bye.
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 Oh, I love seeing all your faces.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Miss Grassl.
Bye-bye. All right, so for those of you that are still here, anything I can help with?
How about 4 and 5 on the last page?
Okay, so when you say the last page, you're talking about the application and extension, the very last page there?
Yeah,
right?
The one with all the, like, the long questions.
Yeah, the word problem kind of things. Okay, so one thing I'll tell you about that before I get too far into this is just this morning I did post there's a help video that kind of helps you set those problems up. And so I usually will do that on the morning. I've been doing it the morning before the lesson, you know, before our Zoom meeting. So you can check that out in the future, but since we're here and you're asking, I'll go ahead and go over. So you said 4 and 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put this back over to my document camera so we can look at this together. Okay, and I know you can't see that very well, so I may end up zooming in when it's time to start writing stuff here. But okay, on a recent trip to New York City, Mr. Kelly went to the top of the Empire State Building. Okay, so I'm going to kind of draw myself an Empire State Building here, a tall building. Right. So he went to the top. He's way up here at the top. He knows that the Empire State Building is 1,250 feet high. So I'm going to write that in there, 1,250 feet high. But he wants to figure out how tall the building across the street is. It's 100 feet across the street. Okay, so there's another building that's across the street And we want to know how tall it is. Okay, so we don't know what that is, but we know that it's 100 feet away, right? Something like that, maybe. He measures the angle of depression from the Empire State Building to the roof of the adjacent building to be 23 degrees. Okay, so from here, from the horizontal, right, we go down 23 degrees. And so he's saying that angle of depression there is 23 degrees. How tall is the building across the street? Okay, so we want to find this length here. All right, so I'm gonna do this up here, and I'm gonna say that distance right there, just to so that I have a right triangle that I'm working with. That's also 100 feet right there, right? And this X over here is going to be the same as this distance right here, X, right? Oh man. Okay, so because this angle here is 23 degrees, I could figure out this angle here that's inside the triangle by subtracting that 23 degrees from 90, because this here makes a right angle, right? So 90 minus the 23 degrees, that gives me 67. Okay, so I've got a 67 degree angle in here. And I want to know how tall this building is. So I'm gonna, because I know this is 100, I want to figure out that length right there. Because if I can figure out that length right there, then I can subtract that from the 1250. So again, 1250 minus whatever that length there is, that's going to give me my X. Okay, so I'm going to call this something else for now. I'll call that, I don't know, I'll call it A. So once I know what that length there is, then I'll be able to subtract that from the 1250 to figure out what that length there is. All right. So I'm going to kind of redraw what I have here because there's so many scribbles on this, just so that we can just focus on that right triangle there. So the right triangle that I'm looking at has this angle of 67 degrees. It has this length A that I'm looking for, and then it has this 100 here, right? And there's my right angle. So over here is the hypotenuse. So from this angle right here, I know the opposite, and I also know the adjacent. So which trig ratio is that? That's going to be tangent. So I'm going to go tangent of 67 degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent. 100 over A. And then from last week, you'll remember you can switch the places of the A and the tangent of 67 so that A ends up being 100 divided by tangent of 67 degrees. So we're not even using the inverse tangent on that one because we're not looking for the angle. We're just doing tangent of 67 degrees and then 100 divided by that tangent of 67 degrees. All right. Should we talk about number 5? That one feel okay? Checking my time here. All right, I got plenty of time. All right, so for number 5 then, if you're good there, the Avengers are out on a nightly patrol. I'll leave this up here just in case you need to see that again. To make sure that all is safe in the city. At one end of town, Iron Man, who is 11,000 feet up in the air, spots the evil Thanos wreaking havoc. Iron Man dives at an angle of depression of 15 degrees to save the day. So I'm going to start kind of drawing what I've read so far. So Iron Man is at one end of town, Iron Man, who is 11,000 feet up in the air. Okay, so he's flying up here, right? And he is 11,000 feet off the ground. And he he sees Thanos at an angle of depression of 15 degrees, right? He dives at an angle of depression of 15 degrees. So there is my horizontal. So 15 degrees down from that angle of depression, that angle in there is the 15 degrees. At the exact time that Thor is patrolling at 20,000 feet and dives at an angle of depression of 29 degrees, assuming that they fly at the same speed, who will get to Thanos first and save the day? It doesn't say if they're on the same side of town or not, does it? Let's see, I'm going to read it again. The Avengers are out on a nightly patrol, making sure that all is safe in the city. At one end of town, Iron Man spots evil Thanos wreaking havoc. Iron Man dives at an angle of depression of 15 degrees to save the day. At the exact same time, Thor is patrolling 20,000 and dives at an angle of depression of 29 degrees, assuming that they fly at the same speed, who will get to Thanos first and save the day. Which just, I don't think it matters. So I'm going to go ahead and put Thor at the other end of town. Okay. And we're going to assume that the bad guy Thanos is, standing here at the point on the ground where they're going to race to get to him. So let's see. Because what I'm looking for is, if they fly at the same speed, who will get to Thanos first and save the day? So if they're flying at the same speed, I need to see who has the shortest distance to travel. And that hypotenuse, right? I've got a right triangle here. That hypotenuse is the distance that they're going to be traveling. So I'm going to solve for that hypotenuse there. And that's going to tell me how far Iron Man had to travel. Okay, and so since this angle of depression is 15 degrees, do you know how we're going to figure out the angle on the inside there? We're going to go 90 minus 15 to get that angle in there is 75. Okay, so for Iron Man, figuring out this X here, I have the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So I'm going to use cosine because of A and H, right? So I'm going to end up solving cosine of 75 degrees is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And I'll solve that. That'll tell me how far Iron Man has to travel. And then, like I said, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to set it up over here, except it's for Thor, who is 20,000 feet up in the air. So I'll come over here and I'll draw that now. Okay, so he's 20,000 feet up in the air. He has an angle of depression of 29 degrees. So 29 degrees. Okay. And again, I want to find out what's this angle in here. I'm going to want to solve for what this hypotenuse is here. So maybe I'll call it Y for Thor, and see who has the shorter hypotenuse, right? Because whoever has the shorter hypotenuse is going to have to travel a shorter distance. And so they'll get there faster since they're flying at the same speed. All right. You feel like you can do that one?
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. See you later, Miss Grassl.
You're okay. Bye. See you later, Ian. Dwayne, anything I can help you with in particular?
No, not right now. I was just wondering when you're gonna post the key so I can check my answers before I turn it in.
Oh, so the key, I always will post the key the day after it's due.
Okay.
So you'll turn it in with, the best of your ability. And if I think that you've made too many mistakes, I'll return it to you. You'll have the key to look at to get help if you need to. And then you can resubmit it if you need to. You may not need to, it'll kind of depend on how well you did that first time too. So I do want you to try it on your own without the key first. If there's anything that you get stuck on, I do have office hours today at 3. I can help you. And then once you get it back, if I do ask you to fix anything and you need some more help, I have office hours tomorrow too once you get it back. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll see
Bye.
you next time.
See you what?
See you next time.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, Dwayne.
Bye-bye.